Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining us, everyone. For what is our first Workplace Ninjas UK live session. Hopefully you can see on the screen here. If you're not familiar with Workplace Ninjas, basically it's a network of user groups across Europe, and we're jumping on an opportunity really to kind of start up the UK arm. Collectively, they come together. There's a summit every year. I think this year's it's in September in Switzerland, Lucerne. So have a look at that if it's something you're interested in, getting together face to face and want to do a bit of traveling. So we're building on what is an established network of user groups, and today being our first session, you know, we want to kind of build up on that. So we'll give you some details of what that means. From a UK team perspective here, we've got, you know, some our own established technical people in the UK, very active in the community, and so, you know, if there's anything that kind of leads out of these sessions or just generally in the user group, by all means reach out to us. We are starting off here, right? So we'll be looking to expand, extend, and do a number of both, you know, live sessions, but also what we're hoping to do is, well, we're in the planning our first face-to-face. The network of user groups do a number of get-togethers as well as live sessions, and we're trying to mimic that effectively and build up on a community. So hopefully you can see the handles there on Twitter and LinkedIn. You know, go ahead and join us and follow along if you can. That would be great. In terms of the sessions today, we've got two sessions, one from Neil McLaughlin, which is going to go through the application deployment options for AVD and Windows 365. I'm looking forward to that. And then we've got Nicklas Olsen, who's going to look at MAM for Windows, the basics. They should be around about 40 minutes each on those sessions. While we're going through those, if I could ask you kind of go on mute, so that we, you know, there's no disruption, but also if you've got any questions, add them to the chat, the Teams chat here, and we will pick up on them and, you know, stop the guys as we go along and hopefully get all your questions answered. Anyone else want to add anything? If not, we'll kick off with Neil. No. Okay, let me get out of that, and I'll hand over to you, Neil, for your session.
All right, thank you very much. So let's say, look, this is a great initiative. I'm a big fan of Workplace Ninjas, and it's great to have a UK arm of it. So I'm really looking to see where you go with this, and also thank you for letting me present on the very first session as well. So that's definitely a first. So okay, so I'm just going to share my screen. And hopefully you will see my presentation.
Yeah, we got that.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you about application deployment options for Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. You probably don't think it's an important subject, but it's an extremely important subject because in my day job, I look at a lot of environments, and applications is always the thing which drives a project, right? But people seem to think about it last, and I've seen a lot of projects fail because they've chosen the wrong method of deploying applications. So it's my belief that you should think very wisely about how you're going to manage those application deployments, because how you manage applications in a sort of VDI or DaaS environment is very different to how you manage applications on-prem. So I see a lot of consultants make the mistakes of having that on-prem mentality when they go into deploying sort of applications onto sort of DaaS and VDI workloads, and they get issues. Okay, so hopefully today I'm going to walk through some of these options, and hopefully by the end of this presentation you'll have a much better idea of how to sort of think about stuff, ask the right questions, and design the environment the correct way. So first of all, a bit about me. This slide deck is not the most pretty slide deck you'll ever see, because I literally threw it threw it together today. I could just have no spare time to do this. So a bit about me. So yeah, my name's Neil McLaughlin. I work at a company called Nerdio. We basically deploy and manage Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 for some of the largest deployments in the world. So my old role used to be UK field CTO, and my current role is Principal Technical Account Manager. So I sort of look after and manage some of the largest AVD deployments in the world, essentially, because we've got over like probably going on to 10,000 deployments that we've done, probably over coming up to probably 2,000 deployments across the world that we actively manage at the moment as well. So I've literally seen it all. It's my day job. It's all I do day in, day out. I've been doing VDI stuff for probably over 15 years now, mainly focused on Citrix, and then moved over to doing Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 a few years ago. I'm an active Microsoft MVP. I do a lot of speaking at conferences. I run a user group. So I'm the founder of the worldwide AVD user group. And I also part of the steering group of the EUC forum, which I hope some of you have attended. And we actually combine the AVD user group with the Citrix user group into that to create the EUC forum, so we can discuss all topics. So that's an event that we hold about 4 times a year in person as well. So enough about me. I just want to say this. I've been playing a lot around with sort of AI stuff as well, trying to generate images just to make these presentations a bit pretty as well. So you'll see some really weird stuff as I found out as well. But yeah, look, I'm not an applications guy. So if anything's wrong in this presentation, I apologize. But I'm not a deep application guy, because I realize application management is a huge subject, right? You can go as deep as you want to go to. So I just skim over the top of it, because that's the level of knowledge that I need to do my job. But I try to cover as much of the basics as I can here. But as I said, I'm not an expert. I appreciate some of you on this call today will probably know a lot more about application deployment and management than I do. But hopefully I've got the stuff that I've written down is hopefully correct. So please feel free to correct me or stop me on any occasion if I'm just talking complete rubbish. Okay. All right. So as I said, we're going to do a brief overview of the different technologies and why we need to think about them. So if you haven't heard of Azure Virtual Desktop before, it's essentially a Azure service providing virtual desktops to people. Now, this used to be quite a niche industry until COVID, until COVID. So when Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, let me jump in there. Anyone not on mute with background noise, if you wouldn't mind going on mute, that'd be great. Thanks very much.
Yeah. All right. Thanks. Okay. All right. Yeah. So Azure Virtual Desktop is a Azure service which delivers virtual desktops to end users. Okay. So it used to be quite a niche industry, and only those people who needed it kind of used it. And most of the use cases used to be either we're going to use it like for external contractors, or we're going to use it for those applications which we can't difficult to install on-prem. But during COVID, we had massive explosive in the VDI infrastructures because people saw the power of what it can do, right? I can literally go and deploy tens of thousands of desktops within a short space of time. So it's really gone mainstream. As I would say, there's always a joke in the industry. It's like, is this the year of VDI? Well, I'm pretty sure that 2023 and 2024 are the year of VDI, because we've seen it massive growth. So this is the sort of technology I've been focused on for the past couple of years, and basically, as I mentioned, it all sits inside your Azure tenant and your Azure subscription. Okay, so it enables me to build those desktops very quickly, and we can scale, we can change the VM sizes, we can add more users, we can do single session, we can do multi-session, we can do Windows 10 or Windows 11 multi-session, so all your application compatibility issues We don't have to run the applications on server operating systems anymore. So it makes a much easier deployment compared to what it used to be like when we were doing published desktops on server operating systems. So it's certainly come on leaps and bounds. Okay. So the next technology, which has seen massive growth as well, is actually a technology called Windows 365, which I presume most of you have heard of. So Windows 365 is a kind of personal session desktops within Azure. And you would manage those desktops pretty much the same would as a physical device. Okay, so the difference between Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 is Azure Virtual Desktop is a consumption-based model, so you pay for what you use, whereas Windows 365 is a subscription-based model, so you pay a monthly subscription fee for those desktops. Okay, so really useful for those companies who are really already established within Intune. So if you've got a really strong Intune presence before your application within Intune or config manager, and Windows 365 can be a really compelling solution for you because it means that I can just build these desktops connected to my Intune and then manage those desktops exactly the same as I would do with my sort of physical devices. So a lot of different use cases between the two different technologies. A lot of people confuse it. It's either Windows 365 or it's Azure Virtual Desktop. Absolutely not the case. They both have their own benefits and merits. So if I'm a desktop user who only uses that desktop for like 5 hours a week, Azure Virtual Desktop is going to be cheaper for you. If I need remote apps, I use Azure Virtual Desktop. If I need GPUs, I use Azure Virtual Desktop. But if I'm an office worker where I need my desktop for like 40 hours a week, I'd pick Windows 365. So it's good to have that solution that you can fit the best use case for. So I always say when we're designing an environment, you fit the best technology to the best use case, right? People make a mistake when they try and shoehorn a technology where it doesn't work. Okay, so definitely a lot of design thought needs to go in at this stage, choosing which technology I need to use. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is because applications management on Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365 is a huge subject, and it can either go horribly wrong or it can go amazingly well. Okay, so as I just alluded to, you trust Windows 365, you trust it pretty much the same as you would do as a physical desktop. You can deploy applications in the user context, you can deploy applications in the system context, you can deploy them by Intune, you can deploy them by XCCM, you can deploy them however you want to deploy them. When it comes to Azure Virtual Desktop, it's a bit different. And the reason being is because what we generally do with Azure Virtual Desktop is we deploy something called host pools. And a host pool consists of multiple session hosts. Okay. And if I've got like 10 session hosts, for example, I may have 100 people logging onto that host pool, and those 100 people would log onto a random session host. So we need to ensure that the applications are all in a very clean and consistent state. Okay, so most of the time we just deploy the applications onto an image, and then from the image we create the session hosts. Okay, so I'll go into that shortly as well. And we also need to think about profile management as well, but I won't go into a lot of detail on this about it, but we use something called FHlytics to manage the profiles. Now, I generally see two types of deployment strategies out there with Azure Virtual Desktop. So we can do something called image-based management. As I just alluded to, that's basically I install all my applications onto an image. Okay, so if the company has like, I know, 30 applications, we would install those 30 applications onto that one master image. Okay, and then we'll use that master image to push out to the session hosts. The good thing about that is as well is I can just rebuild those session hosts on a monthly, weekly. Some people do it on a daily basis to give them a nice, clean, consistent state. So you like it when you get like a brand new computer. It's like super fast. And we could do the same thing here, right? So we can just give you a nice, clean session host every day if that's what you want. And the next strategy which we see is host-based management, where we're actually managing the session hosts the same as we would do as a physical device. So we're pushing the applications out onto the session host via Intune, SCCM, some other methods which I'm going to go through shortly, and that means we don't need to do the image-based management. But it also means we can get into a state where we've got different hosts with different applications and different versions and stuff. So it can turn into one big horrible mess. I have to say, some of the biggest and best environments I've seen is Singapore, where they're using config manager and they're using collections for different host pools, and then automatically just pushing hosts out. And it can work really, really well, but it all goes back to how well you manage your config manager environment, which, as we all know, in most cases, that's not done very well most of the time. Okay, the secret to doing like the proper, to have a really good management is to automation, right? I see a lot of environments, and I am still to this day shocked and amazed at the people who don't do automation. I probably speak to, on average, I know 5, 6, 7 customers a day, and I would say probably 25% of those customers automate stuff. Okay. And it just makes things so much easier. There's still a lot of manual processes going on. But if we can automate not only the deployment of like your Azure environments, for example, but if we can automate the image management, if we can automate the host deployment, if we can automate the updated applications, it massively helps because it just saves time, lots of effort, and gets you in a good, clean, consistent state with your application versions. Okay. So as mentioned, we can easily recreate the image on a monthly basis. We have a number of customers now, and what they do is, rather than like update their image, we just re-image the host every month, or we create a new image every month. So every month we just bring in a new image from the marketplace, for the Azure marketplace, which is already updated and patched. And then we just lay the applications on top of that via automation. Now, imagine if you did that in the physical laptop world, right? It means you'd have to push out a brand new image every month. But because we're in a virtual world, it's very easy to do. Okay. I've got one customer, and they do this every day with 2,500 VMs because they've got this application which changes on a nightly basis. So every night we just create a new image with the application in it. So very, very easy to do. And super powerful as well because it's secure, it's fast, because you get a nice clean image. So very definitely recommended if you're doing any kind of automation, virtualization, if you're doing physical environments. If you're not automating it, then you need to be doing, because it just makes things a lot easier. So one of my favorite tools, which I've come to love, is package managers. Has anyone got any questions, by the way, from what I've talked about so far? Feel free to interrupt me at any time.
Yeah, there's one question from Simon. Okay. I hope I said that right. His question is, he's aware of the recent announcements of the improvements to MSIX App Attach. What he's not aware of is how that helps updating the apps. Does the new App Attach model help us update the apps without recreating the MSIX package? He says his question relates to somehow related to a set and forget model.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of slides on that coming up. But the answer is yes, it does help. So basically, for those of you who aren't aware, there's a technology called MSIX App Attach, which enables you to take an application in MSX format, and then you can convert it to VHD and then attach it to the session hosts. And then you don't have to install anything on the session hosts, but it can be a pain to update applications and manage those applications because you have to remove the existing and attach your new ones. So the answer to your question is yes, the new solution does solve that, because now what I can do, I can attach and detach applications on the fly. Okay, I can even put the same version of different versions of applications on the same session host. I was hoping to do a live demo today, but I tried to deploy it and it said it's not available within the portal yet. So I was even speaking to the product manager, Jim Moyle, to try and get me on the public preview, but we couldn't do it in time. So he's been very kind, and he's actually given us a video showing how it all works as well. So I'm going to play that shortly as well. Right.
Well, in answer to the last bit of his question, he will still have to recreate the MSIX app.
Right.
To create that VHD.
Yes, but we have something in the pipeline which could help with that. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm all about automation, right? Okay. So imagine this: you have Winget store, which is the Windows store. Now, imagine if you pulled in applications automatically from the Winget store, and then if you put them into a private Winget repo, okay, and then from that private Winget repo, we push out or convert the application, and then we push out that application as a MSIX App Attach file, and then we can dynamically assign that again by code onto the session hosts. Okay, that's the vision at the moment. That's what we're going to be working. That's what we're going to try and do, and that means we're literally every time a new version of the application is deployed, the user would automatically get it as a app attached application. So that's what the thinking is at the moment. So watch this space. But I'm going to show you something similar that we can do today using Winget. Because disclaimer, I work for a company called Nerdio, and we do lots of automation around this space. So we've done lots of stuff with private Winget repos, where because the private Winget repo using manifest files or public ones as well, and that means we can automatically update the application versions as well. So I've got a demo which I'm going to go through shortly with that as well. Okay, so package managers. I love package managers. I think they're the best thing on the planet. But obviously they're only available if your applications, very useful if your applications are available on them, which they do have a lot of applications available. Okay, so we're going to have a look at that in a second now. And I would say I'm seeing more and more customers use it because they find when they move to Azure AD or Enter AD, sorry, and manage those hosted by Intune, it becomes problematic due to the speed of delivery of those applications. Where if I push stuff out by Winget or Chocolaty, it's there within minutes. Okay, so it's a lot more reliable, and it's a lot quicker. So I've got a few demos that I'm going to show you shortly. Okay, all right. So this is what I asked, like ChatGPT is like, create me a picture of Chocolaty versus Winget. I don't know what this is, but it's not Chocolaty Winget, and I don't know why they got a big gorilla, but I found it a bit funny. Okay, right. So we're going to look at two. We're going to look at Chocolaty, and we're going to look at Winget. I've never actually compared them side by side until this presentation, and they're literally the same thing. Literally, if you look at what they do, they literally do exactly the same thing, which is deliver applications by code. Okay, so Chocolaty is something which is free. There is a business version if you want to have your own private Chocolaty repo, but it's basically just a different way of deploying applications. We've got a public Chocolaty repo, which is community maintained, by the way. It's like open source, and people basically create a Chocolaty package based on common applications. So as you can see here, we've got like Adobe Reader, Google Chrome, and those kinds of applications are the ones which you can use Chocolaty for. But if you want to use it to deploy your custom line of business applications, you can actually create your own Chocolaty repo as well, but that's a paid for service. Okay. A lot of companies get a bit scared because it is open source, and they do say they have a rigorous moderation review process, including like virus scanning and stuff, but you never know. It is something which somebody has created. So some Russian hacker somewhere might be creating code and infiltrating everyone's machines. I don't know. But a lot of secure companies don't like it. But then again, I work with a lot of secure companies who do use it, and they're perfectly happy to take that risk because they know they have their own process where they scan the packages and they make sure they version control it and test it and malware scan it and all that stuff as well. Very simple to install, so you just do it all via the command line. So you can just do Choco install, and it'll just install the packages. If you've got an existing VM, you can literally just do Choco upgrade, and it'll detect all the applications on your machine, and it'll just upgrade them all as well. So I thought I did a quick test just to see how good the applications are, right? So I picked the top 10 applications within Chocolaty, and just see like how fast it was to deploy them and how easy it was to deploy them out of the box. So I don't want to do live demos because we know live demos always go wrong. So this is just a little video that I created. So obviously we can do this via PowerShell. So that's all I did, just that code, right? And that's how powerful that is, because it means if I want to rebuild that VM, or if I want to create a new image, I just run that PowerShell code and bump, off it goes, and it just installs the applications for me silently as well. So it's very, very cool. It's very, very quick. I was surprised how good it was. I've played about with it a little bit, but until today, I've never actually gone into a lot of depth and tested it in anger. But it worked flawlessly. It installed first time, it installed the applications, no issues, and it was all the very latest versions of the applications available as well. So I'm not going to sit here and make you go through all the video, because it took 25 minutes to install these applications. But you can see it'll just basically go through the process of install. It basically downloads the applications onto the machine, and then just executes them just as you would do if you were doing a normal install. And I guess the other downside is you can't really do the customization. So if you want to package your own customizations, you won't be able to do that, but you can control that by group policy or different ways of changing stuff. But as you can see, it's just working its way through. So these are the applications that I've picked, like Google Chrome, Adobe Reader, Zoom, Python, Teams, 7-Zip, just all the general normal applications that you'd see within a sort of corporate environment. So installed Office 365 for me. It's going over there, and then we go up to the applications. It gets to the end, so that's installing VS Code. And then here you can see all the applications that have been installed, and as I said, just took 25 minutes. That's all it took. So very, very cool. And just to prove, I'm just going to launch one of the applications in a second, so you can just see that it's actually working. Yep, so I'm just going to quickly just open up VS Code, and there it goes. So very, very easy. Can save a lot of time and effort in your deployments. Okay. So now we're going to move on to Winget. So Winget, as I said, I tried to look for the differences between the applications. They are very similar, right? So obviously, Chocolaty has been around for about 10 years now. It's very established. A lot of applications, a lot of people trust it. Winget's a new kid on the block, so that was obviously released by Microsoft a few years ago, and it's what's actually used when you do the when you get connected to the Microsoft Store to download an application. These actually get deployed by Winget. And what you can actually do as well, most of the applications in the Microsoft Store, they already have a Winget application for them, or an MSIX application. So you can literally just pull them directly from the Windows Store as well. Because the good thing about Winget is I can create a private repo, right, within my own corporate environment, which means I don't have to pull the applications down all the time. I just pull them to my private repo and then push those out as well. So very, very cool. And to my surprise, pretty much all the applications that I picked when I was using Chocolaty, they were all in Winget as well. Okay, so pretty similar kind of support that you get from both. And just as a comparison, I did exactly the same process that I did for Chocolaty. I just went onto Winget and worked out the code to install the applications, and then just basically run that within a PowerShell console, and off it went. So I forgot the Y switch, so I got some prompts here, but same process, took similar amount of time to download the applications, and you can see here it's just downloading the application directly from the Google website itself as well. So let me just follow. I don't think I managed to get the end of it all, just did 25 minutes of it, but yeah, it completed in the end. Okay. Any questions about that, by the way?
Yeah, so there is one question based around that actually, Neil. I mean, okay. One question from Siemens basically saying, do you favour one over the other at all? Any particular reason if you do?
So what I didn't show you was Winget was a bit of a pain to get working. I found Chocolaty a lot easier to work with because there's more applications available. So it took me like 15 minutes to get Winget working, because for some reason there's an updated Winget application. And the one that I was trying to use that came with a brand new deployment of Windows 11 and 23H2, and the Winget application was out of date, so it wouldn't let me deploy anything. So it was giving me errors in like the event log and stuff. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And a bit of Googling was that I needed to update the Winget client from 1.2 to 1.6. Could I find any information on how to update the Winget client? No. It took me a good 10 minutes to figure that out. You have to go into the Windows Store and download a very specific application, and then that updates Winget to version 1.6. And after that, everything works. But for that reason, I'm going to use Chocolaty because it just works. And it's been around, it's a lot more established and stuff. So I prefer Chocolaty, but both of them do work. So people may trust Microsoft more because it's a Microsoft technology. So Winget is owned by Microsoft. So they may choose that just purely for that reason as well. Okay. Does that answer the question? Yep.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah. One more question. There's a few in the chat, but I'll let you get on. Just one more question first. So what does Winget private repo option look like now? Previously, you had to compile some .NET solution to do this.
It's coming. So I'm going to give you a demo of how to do that. Okay. All right. So another method of deploying applications in virtual environments is basically using application virtualization. So application virtualization is where you put an application into a container. Okay, so the most popular one of these used to be AVD. And it means like when I put an application in a container, I can attach it without having to install it. Okay, so AVD used to be the main one that most people use when you're using Citrix, but that's going end of life in 2026. Okay, it's a shame because it's a really good technology. It works really well. So its replacement was MSIX App Attach. For people in the know, MSIX App Attach has been a bit flaky sometimes due to its restrictions in how it can interact with the operating system. So it only tend to work with very simple applications. When you added complicated applications into it, which needed like certain versions of .NET and needed to install drivers and stuff, it really struggled. And also MSIX was quite a new technology as well. So people struggle to get applications converted, but that's getting better as time goes on. And they've actually released a updated version of MSIX App Attach, which I'm going to go through shortly. As I mentioned, I was hoping to get this all working and to give you a live demo, but it's literally just been released last week, and it wasn't available in my Azure portal. So Jim Moyle kindly stepped in and allowed me to use these videos that he's recorded. So we're going to go over those shortly. But the new features that you're going to get with App Attach are we can now attach the applications to any session host, right? So previously, I had to attach the application to a session host. So I'd create a repository of applications and then have to go and attach them to each host pool. Okay, I don't need to do that anymore. We can attach them to any session host we want because it sits outside, it sits above the host pool level. So very, very cool. But most importantly, they can now be delivered on a per user basis, right? So think about what I just said. We can now have dynamic per user based application delivery. Okay. That's something which AppV can do, but MSIX App Attach can't do, but now we can do it. Okay, so that's going to make the management of those applications so much easier. So the answer to the question that someone said before is like, can I like do versioning now? He's like, yeah, because if I've got like version 1.19 of Google Chrome and I want to update to Google 120, I can actually deliver both of those applications to the user and they can launch them at the same time. So I can just take away 19 and give him 20, and then when he logs off and logged on again, he'll have version 120, or he can do it on the fly as well. So very, very cool. We can now include MSX, Apex, and bundles as well. Okay. But what is key as well is like previously, MSIX App Attach was only supported on Active Directory joined devices. We can now support Enter ID, which is what most people are going towards from what I can see, or we can do hybrid join as well. So it's very modern App Attach is like what we call today. So let's do a quick demo and just see what that looks like. So this is the new App Attach thing. So you'll see this within the portal. So I go to create my App Attach. I select my resource group. I select my host pool and that I want to attach it to. And then I just select my storage account. So this is the location where my application is going to be held. So obviously I need to convert it to an App Attach application. But I can go here, just select my application version. So we're going to select Windows Terminal, I think. Then you see the SIM file. So I just select that SIM file. And then that detects the package automatically. So you can do different versioning. I'm just going to display version. We're doing on demand. So that'll like launch when the user clicks on the icon. Then we can assign it to the host pool as well. So when the user logs onto the host pool, it will automatically attach as well. But as I say, we can also launch it as a remote app. So we don't actually have to log on to the session host to launch the application. We'll just see it as an application within the AVD client. So click on create. This is the bit which failed for me because it's not ready yet. Hopefully be ready anytime soon. So this is registration type, so we can do like on demand, we can do inactive if you want to stop it. And then these are just the different properties that you can view for it as well. So this is, as I said, this is brand new. This is only released last week. So very excited to have a play about with it. I was up till 1 o'clock in the morning last night trying to get it working, and it just won't work. So, but now I know why it wasn't ready on the portal. So, and that's how you can assign it to users as well. So we're going to assign it to user free. Maybe even more users. Okay. Okay, and then that should be it. Okay, so we've assigned it to the user. We've also assigned it to the host pool as well. So what I can do now is we go to the next demo, and this is not the very exciting bit, but you just log onto the session host, and then as soon as we log on, it's just there. Okay, I've not installed it in the image, it's just there. And as I said, I don't actually have to log on to the session host. We can launch it as a remote app as well. So that's the application being launched as well. So very, very cool. Hoping to see a lot more uptake on this now that it's user-based. Because imagine like we just had all those applications that I've just installed by Chocolaty. All of those will probably work in this scenario because they're all quite simple applications. Okay. But you're probably all sat there thinking, what about Config Manager or Intune? By the way, again, I was very confused by this picture because I told the AI to basically draw me a picture of Config Manager versus Intune, delivering applications on a virtual desktop environment. And it seems to give me 2 trucks and a laptop and some random people sat on computers and doing stuff. So you figure that one out because I can't. Okay, so pretty much everyone I talked to, they're basically migrating from SCCM or Config Manager to Intune. Okay. Single session desktops in an AVD environment works great. Single session desktops in Windows 365 environment works great. Multi-session hosts, not so great. Mainly due to the time it takes to deploy the applications. Customers have told me sometimes it can take 40 hours to deploy. It only supports machine-based, and we can't do user-based. So it has limitations, but it can work, but it's challenging. Okay, which is why I love like all the dynamic package delivery, like MSIX App Attach and delivering images by code and stuff, or just do image-based management. And it works the best way in multi-session environments. So what if I wanted to do all of these? Okay, so again, disclaimer, I work for a company and this is what we've built. We've built this tool called Unified Application Management, which basically just takes everything I just talked about and puts it into one big console, and then we can just push the file. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to show you what that looks like very quickly. So let me just go into here. So what I can do from there is I can go to, let me just close that down. I can basically pull in all those sources I can create like a private Winget repo automatically. So someone asks a question, do you need like PowerShell or code or anything? I don't know, because I just do it from here. I literally just do it with a few buttons. But what I can do from here, I can have this unified catalog, and that's pulling applications from all these different repositories. So I can pull applications from Intune, SCCM, everything. And that's why I know so much about package managers, because I've been playing about with them all. But what I can do, say if I want to search for, I don't know, a SAP client or something, something random, and I've SAP in the PowerShell Studio, and all I need to do is to pull that, and I can just import that into my private Winget repo. So I can just go to here, package ID, SAP in Studio, import. That is it. That is all I have to do. Okay, and that's going to download the file, the installation code, into my private repo, which is a storage account sitting within Azure. Then it creates a YAML file, a JSON file, which contains all the configuration like executables that you have to do. And then I can literally just push that out onto my session host. So because I'm a fan of like Blue Peter and stuff, here's one that I did earlier. So if I flick over to my other personal lab environment, which is not that one second. I've got an example of one which I did, which I've closed down the tab for. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So here's what it looks like. So what I've done, I've deployed a load of applications onto a session host. So this one here. And then it gives you like status, it gives you which ones installed successfully, and then it creates a policy stuff. So again, I'm not going to spend a massive amount of time on this because I know it's not like a sponsored event or anything. But just to let you know, it's like this is a really cool way of deploying applications quite easily. And if you go to my session host, you'll see this is my AVD session host. And then if I go to atwers.cpl, you'll see all those applications that I saw that I just pushed out via private Winget repo as well. So very cool and very, very easy to do. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to the presentation. And I think that was my last slide. So that's all I had to talk to you today. So I hope you found it useful. I hope you've learned something. And I apologize it wasn't better. I literally put this out together a few hours ago. So I've just been so busy and stuff. But if you need to reach out and ask any questions and clarify, please just let me know. Any questions in the Q&A at all?
Quite a few. Yeah, they've been coming in,
Okay.
and Andrew has been being an absolute star and answering pretty much all of them I've seen come through.
Good.
But please, if you can, Neil, to have a few seconds to go through and see if any are still outstanding. And yeah, thanks to everyone for asking questions. That's great. And yeah, thanks, Neil, for putting that together, even if it was a bit of a rush. I know you've been very busy over the past few days, so thank you for that. And it was as interesting as I'd hoped, so that is good. Yeah, as I say, any more questions, please put them into chat. But next, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go straight to Nicklas Olsen, who is going to talk to us about Windows MAM, or Mobile Application Management, which is a data protection feature for Windows. It's similar to App Protect for iOS and Android, but he's going to cover the basics. So yeah, we'll see how much of the basics are covered. Are you doing a live demo, Nicklas?
Yeah, I'm doing some configuration, and then we're gonna see how it looks for the end user. So we are taking a
cool.
look.
Sounds good. So if you have any questions for Nicklas, obviously he'll be presenting and maybe doing some configuration as well. So probably can't see the chat. So please just put the message into chat, and we'll interrupt Nicklas when it becomes a good time, as we have been with Neil. So yeah, any questions, just drop them in chat. Nicklas, over to you.
Yeah, and just let me know if there's any questions that I have to answer. So
sure will do.
All right, welcome to my session. It's about MAM for Windows, the basics. Again, my name is Nicklas Olsen, and I am 20 years old. So as you can probably see from the description of this event, I'm a new speaker, so bear with me if I'm a little bit nervous. So that's how it is. I'm currently studying data technician, specializing in infrastructure in Denmark. And I'm also a Microsoft student ambassador, if someone knows that program. Right now, my main focus is in Intune, and that's where I love to use a lot of my time. I write blogs and make some scenarios for beginners and students to get started into Intune. So that's a little bit about me. Let's just get started. To start with, we will just cover a little bit about what a bring your own device is, and then what MAM for Windows is. And after that, we will jump straight into the configuration part. So let's jump to the slide. So what is a bring your own device? Probably all of you nearly know what a bring your own device is, but a bring your own device is a personally owned device. That means the device isn't company owned. So what typically happens is that the employee logs in with a local user and then access the corporate data or resources with the Enter ID credentials. That could be logging into Outlook or accessing other company data. And as you can see here from the screenshot that I've taken from the Enter ID portal, is that personally owned devices is typically Microsoft Enter registered devices as well. So that's something to keep in mind if you have seen this giant type before. And of course, a bring your own device is not only a Windows device. It can also be iPad, iPhone, other phone types as well, MacBooks. It can be many other devices as well. But in this session, I will just cover the Windows devices. So yeah, that's a little bit about bring your own device. So MAM for Windows. MAM for Windows is mobile application management. So with MAM for Windows, you're managing the application on a device and not the entire device as you are with MDM, mobile device management. So at least me, I don't want personally owned devices to be enrolled in Intune, but if a company or a customer insists on using them, we at least have to try to control them in a certain way. So we got to protect the company data on these devices. So that's where MAM comes to place. We have probably all had a customer or a CEO or something else that insists on using a device at home, and then MAM for Windows could be a perfect solution. So as you can see here, when I tried to prepare the slides, I actually took this photo from the Intune portal, and I actually thought that this still was called the MAM user scope, but Microsoft actually changed the scope to Windows Information Protection instead. So that's something that has been changed in the few weeks. So that's a little bit of good information if you haven't seen that. So I know there hasn't been a lot of talking, but I like to see hands-on. So let's just get started with configuring MAM for Windows. So a quick overview of what we are going to configure is, first of all, we are going to block personally owned devices from MDM enrollment. After that, we're going to connect the mobile threat defense connector. This connector detects the health status to our app protection policy. And after that, we are going to configure the app protection policy. And last but not least, we're going to configure a conditional access policy. So I will just share my screen here in a second. So just let me know when you can see the screen.
Yeah, that's come up, Nicklas.
Perfect, thanks. So we are straight into the Intune portal, and we are going to jump into the devices section. And from the devices section, we are going to jump to enroll devices, enrollment device platform restrictions. And then we have the default one, that we're going to change. And we're going to change to all users properties. And then underneath the edit, we can block personally owned devices from enrolling into Windows MDM. Now that's done, we can press save. So,
Nicklas, would you mind zooming in just on the browser, the browser zoom level, just by 1 or 2%? Yeah, that would be fine. Yeah, it's just for YouTube. With some people watch the stream back on mobile devices, for example. So
perfect.
It'd be great. Thank you.
Great, good. We have to make sure that everyone can see what happens on the screen and not only me. Perfect. Good. So we have now blocked personally owned devices from enrolling into MDM. And the next step is to connect our mobile threat defense connector. So we head into tenant administration, connectors and tokens, and jump down to mobile threat defense. And as you can see right here, I don't have any connector set up at the moment. So we are going to add our connector, and then we are selecting Windows Security Center. And just a little quick information about this connector. In our app protection policies, we can set up a setting about the maximum threat level on a device. And this connector gives us information about that. So this is one of the, if you want to use that setting, we have to configure this connector. So that's why. So I will press create. And as you can see right now, the status is not set up. And that's because it won't be active until we have enrolled the first device into MAM. So that's just for quick information. And after that, we are actually ready to create our app protection policy. So let's jump into apps and app protection policies. And then let's create a policy for Windows. And I'll just call mine Windows MAM app protection policy, as I've done here. And then press next. And at the moment, there's only one app we can target, and that's Microsoft Edge. So we are going to target Microsoft Edge and press next. And as you can see right now, we have 3 different settings that we can modify. The first one is who we want to receive data from. At the moment, we can receive data from all sources. So that includes any account, document, location, or application. And then you have the option to take no sources. And I'm going to be really strict with this policy, so I will just say no sources. And the next setting is who you are allowed to send organization data to. And at the moment, it's all destinations. And you can, of course, change it to no destinations. There isn't really a middle thing right here. So you just have to pick either one. So I will say no destinations as well. And then the next setting is about if you want to allow cut, copy, and paste. And again, I'm going to be strict with my policy here. So I will just say no destination or source. And on the functionality, we can decide if we want to allow that the user can print organization data. And I don't want to allow that, so I will block it. And I will press next.
Just before you move through the health checks, if you can go back to the apps tab for us, there was a question. It has been answered now by Andrew, obviously instantly answered by Andrew, but it's a good point, I think, to call out. The question was, can you only select Edge as it's the only app in the app library that you showed? That was the question. So do you want to give some more information on that?
I mean, at the moment, if I'm not wrong, you can only pick the Microsoft Edge.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's only supported on Edge right now.
So it doesn't really give any other opportunities, unfortunately.
It doesn't, but I haven't heard anything about more apps being released soon or anything like that.
Okay.
Clearly, it's going to happen. It should happen, but I haven't heard any ideas of when. Andrew, you might have more information than me. Someone ask Andrew a question in the chat if more are going to be released soon. He'll answer it in seconds. Thanks, Nick.
Perfect. Yes, and we have configured our data protection. And next up is our health checks. So underneath our health checks, we have two different conditions. We have app conditions and device conditions. The first one is app conditions, and there's two default settings. One with offline grace period, that if you are offline for more than 720 minutes, it's going to block access. And another one, if you are offline for more than 90 days, it's going to wipe the data from the device. And I actually want to add one more setting because if I go ahead and disable an account, I don't want any data to be left on the device. So I have picked disable account, and under action, I want to wipe the data. So that's my app conditions. And next up is the device conditions. So as I said before, the mobile threat defense connector is giving us some information for exactly this one. And it's actually for the max allowed device threat level. And as Intune is telling us here, you have to set up your connector before you can get the data. And again, I don't want to allow device threat level higher than medium. If it's higher than medium, I want to wipe the data from the device. So that's my health checks. And I will just go next. And I'm just going to include my Intune test group. I know it's in Danish, so it's probably a bit hard to read, but that's how it is. And I have included my one test user into this group. So I will just click next and create our app protection policy. And as you can see here, the app protection policy has now been created and it's deployed. So that's perfect. So next up is our conditional access policy. So I will go into the conditional access overview and then go to policies. And from here, I'm going to create a new policy. And I'm just naming it require app protection policy for bring your own devices. And under the users, I'm just selecting my Intune test group. And it's important to say here that if you want to include all users to this policy and also the app protection policy is, please remember to at least test it before you do it, because I did that mistake once and I'm not going to do it again. So the issue was that my device here isn't enrolled into my tenant, so I couldn't access my developer tenant anymore. So just a good advice is to test this one before rolling it out to production, because it will give some minor issues. So I've included my test group, and I want to target Office 365 and press select. And underneath conditions, I'm going to configure 3 different conditions. First of all, I'm going to configure the device platforms to include Windows and client apps. I'm making sure that this policy only will apply to browsers. And last but not least, the filter for devices. This one is actually quite important because I want this policy to only apply whenever a user is entering from an unmanaged device. So I don't want this policy to apply whenever a user is entering from a managed device. So with the property, I'm going to pick the trust type, and the operator is not equals. And I'm going to pick Microsoft Intro joint. And my second trust type is not equals Microsoft Intro hybrid joint. So right now, I'm including everything that isn't equals to Microsoft Intro joint and Microsoft hybrid joint. And as you will see later, whenever we are starting enrolling our devices into MAM is that the device will appear as Microsoft Enter Registered. So hopefully this will include the device to this policy. So our filter for devices is now configured, and of course this filter can also be configured in many other ways, but this is the way that I'm going to do it. So I will just click done. And on the grant, I will make sure to require app protection policy. And I will now enable the policy and click create. And as you can see now, the state is on, and the policy name is require app protection policy for bring your own devices. So our configuration is now done, and I want to show you the end user experience of this. So I will jump into my virtual machine. So there, I will just open this and go to, yes, I got it, portal.office. And then I will log in with my test user, which is Adele. And I will enter the password. And now it will ask me to sign in my work account. So what basically happens now is that it will set up a Edge profile for the work account. So I will just press switch Edge profile and sign into sync data. And I will write the password again. And hopefully it will give me a box that I have to approve with multi-factor. It didn't, so that's better. All right, so here it's really important to notice that whenever you are starting to enroll into MAM, is that you uncheck this box. Otherwise, the MAM policies and the MAM enrollment will not work properly. So make sure to uncheck this one and press OK. And another important thing to remember is that you cannot enroll MDM device, enrolled device, or that is already enrolled to MDM and trying to enroll it to MAM afterwards. That is not possible because MDM will take precedence over MAM. So that's also an important thing to remember. So I will press OK. And of course, now it will prompt me with my multi-factor. So I will just approve it. And that's approved. And I will click done. All right. So as you can see now, it's now switched profiles. So I've got this little one down here now, and it's now on the MAM enrollment page. And I can see that the work profile has been applied as well. I'm logging in with my test user. And it's asking me to set up my profile to access organization resources. So I will just press continue. And now I can access portal.office.com. So if we want to test out if our app protection policies has been applied, we can try to edit a document as an example. So you can see I've tried to test something in this document before. So if I want to cut or copy this one, I will try. It's now preventing me from copying the content from this website. And this is my app protection policies that are preventing me from doing so. So something is working, that's great. So if we can also try to print. Let's see if I can do that if I don't have any printers. So I actually have one printer, so I will try to test this one and print. And it's also preventing me from printing, so that's great. So we can see now that the end user has got the app protection policies, and it's working. It's protecting the company data. But I have also made some observations that I wanted to share with you guys that helped me a lot when I tried playing around with MAM for Windows as well. And the first one is actually the Edge DLP internals. So if you want to check if your policies has been applied to your work profile, you can go to Edge DLP internals in the work profile, and then you can scroll a bit down, and then you can see your app protection policies that has been applied. You can see, as an example, that that the pending policy has been set to block, but also that the cut, copy, and paste policy has been set to no destinations and sources. So that is just an example of how you can check your app protection policies. Another great thing you can check is your, if I remember it correctly, is the Edge MAM internal page. So remember the health checks that we made in our app protection policy. I've been in this situation before, so it actually helped me. So I didn't quite know how these health checks works, and I didn't know how the end user impact was whenever I chose to pick block or wipe or warn. So with this one, I can actually simulate the health check. So let's say that my account got disabled, and I have set my app protection policy to block, and then I can simulate what actually happens for the user and the end user. Not the user and the end user, it's the same user, but you get what I mean. Then I can try to simulate that. And as you can see right now, this is what the user gets whenever the account gets disabled. So it's now telling me that my organization has disabled my account and my app access has been blocked. And it will now shut down my work browser as well. And last but not least is the MAM lock. And the MAM lock is inside the app data folder under local, and then Microsoft, Edge, user data. And if you scroll a bit down, you will see that after the MAM enrollment, these two files has been created. So the mamcast.json has been created, and the MAM lock file has also been created. So if you're struggling a little bit with your MAM enrollment and can figure out what is going wrong, you can actually take a look at this file, and then you can see what's happening behind the scene as well. So there is a lot of good information inside of this. So if you are ever struggling a little bit with MAM, you can definitely take a look at the MAM log. That will help you with the troubleshooting. So yeah, that was basically a little bit about the configuration and then the end user experience. And last but not least, some observations that I thought would be helpful for many of you guys. I will just quickly jump back to my slides here. And so which slide can you see? Can you see the observation slides?
Yeah, we can see those,
okay. Yeah, perfect. So just a little quick overview of which observations that I showed you. You can see that the Edge DLP internal side and MAM internals, and of course the MAM log. So if you are ever going to play around with MAM, please save these. These are definitely gonna help a little bit. So yeah, that was basically a little bit from me. So thank you very much for taking your time to listening a little bit about MAM for Windows. And I hope that you enjoyed it and got a little bit of learning. So if you're interested in connecting with me, my blog site is learnintune.net, and of course connecting with me on LinkedIn if you are interested in connecting. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nicklas. That was great. Yeah, for your you said you're a new speaker, so that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you for that, and great tips around the links for Edge as well to see those the profiles in the configuration in place, because that's what I find when I'm configuring policies in Intune. You do the config and then you're not sure if it's finished applying it yet. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
I did have a question, mainly because I don't know the answer, but how is, and it's a licensing question, so someone will giggle when I ask a licensing question, but how is it licensed? Is it built into Windows Enterprise, or is it an Intune thing? Is it?
I actually believe it's in a P1 license, if I'm not wrong.
I have absolutely no idea, so I hope you're not asking me. Maybe
I believe I have been reading that it's a P1 or P2 license.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. There are no questions that are left in the chat, just people saying well done and thank you. So that is awesome. Andy, over to you to close the session.
Yeah, Nicklas, that was great. Thanks very much. And by no means, from my perspective, was that basics, right? I think you can go, you can say it's more than basics. I think a lot of people got a lot from that. I certainly did. So well done, and thanks very much indeed. Listen, that's really good, and I think we've got some great content there. This will be up on the Cloud Management Community. We've been streaming this live to YouTube, so you should be able to get access to the and watch it back. If you want to go through some of the detail again, by all means, and reach out to us, reach out to Nicklas or Neil. And just a big thanks to the guys doing the sessions today. That was really good. Thanks very much. From my perspective, that's it. We just want one last thing to say, and that is we will be trying to keep these on a momentum. We're not going to be doing big gaps, and certainly, as I think we alluded to, we're looking to do a face-to-face. It will unfortunately be UK based, so if there's anyone on here that's not, maybe look out for your own local Ninja workplace group where you're located. But we will have more sessions on the go and face-to-face coming up. We're quite excited in doing that, and we really want to build a community here that gets you guys involved. Just one other thing, I suppose, and that is if you do have a session that you want to go through on this community, is something you want to give back to the community yourself, and you're a technical area you're good at or you've got experience with, by all means, we'd really like to see that as well. So with that, I'll say thanks, and we'll bring this to a close. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.